Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Invincible Season 1 on Amazon. And I enjoyed this season. I enjoyed them getting into the show. I do need to read the comic books at some point. This is kind of how it also kind of started for me with like The Walking Dead. I kind of saw the show, then got into the compendiums and everything. But since it was an interesting kind of take, also done by Robert Kirkman, I was like, okay, let's kind of see how this works out with the show. And I've been meaning to get around to it, and I'm glad I finally did. My biggest kind of criticism for it, though, is that it seems too short to me. Like, there's a lot of things that I think that they could have really delved into a little bit deeper, but it's only got 8 episodes, so it kind of hamstrings what they can do. So it's mainly down to pacing. The ones that get the most kind of screen time and development is, of course, Mark Grayson and his father Nolan, the titular Invincible, and his father Omni-Man. Now, we do also get other characters around, and they do get screen time and some development, but it's not deep enough. It's like, oh, okay, we've only got 8 episodes, and it's really kind of strange. I can understand doing a kind of shortened kind of. I would have. If you're doing a shorter season to see how well it's received, I would usually go for more of like 10 episodes. And then kind of do your adaptation to more be like on Mark and Omni Man and kind of go through that while seeding the other stuff throughout so that way it doesn't take away from that, because you want Mark to be your kind of cornerstone since it's titled Invincible. But other than that, I do like what is here, and some of the animation goes a little bit weird in certain instances, like shifting of like 2D and 3D and trying the amalgamation there, and sometimes it looks a little bit off, but it's never at a point where I'm like, sweet Jesus, what the hell happened? It gets a little bit weird, but overall I still really liked it. Sometimes like voicing for lip flaps were a little bit off as well. Not to the point where I'm like, I'm either like 300 words ahead or like 500 words behind. It's just enough to be a little bit noticeable, but not really breaking. So, we are introduced to this world, and in the get-go, we pretty much see that these dudes, the Mahler twins, are going after the president. And we are introduced to this world's Justice League. This is very much influenced by DC. And you're probably thinking, oh God, this is pretty much like The Boys. And I can understand that take, but it really isn't. It's like somebody was inspired by DC and then wanted to explore different kind of takes. Think of it almost more like a multiversal kind of more take on like DC rather than The Boys' kind of take of there really aren't superheroes. There's some that'll try and help, but they're overall kind of corrupt and run by a crazy ass organization. There are corrupt individuals in this show, but overall you do see that most heroes attempt to be heroes in the ones that you're shown for. And we see that here with the Guardians of the Globe, their take on the Justice League. We got like War Woman, this one that's like a ghost woman. We got Red Rush, which is like the Flash. You got Darkwing, which is like your Batman. You even got your Martian kind of Manhunter analog, which is like able to like shapeshift. And you got kind of Aquaman fish dude. One kind of funny scene I did like was that the Red Rush dude was kind of like getting people out of the place, and he's like, oh shit, I kind of took you guys a little bit too fast, and then people just started throwing up, and it's like, it's funny when you see those kind of takes on like, what would happen if the Flash actually did these things, and you don't see the aftermath. It's like, you just got taken from one place to another super fast, and you're like, oh god, he starts fighting and throw up. That was a little kind of thing. But we see that they're dealing with them. The main leader for like the Guardians of the Globe is this immortal dude, which he's more kind of Superman-ish, kind of similar to Omni-Man, while Omni-Man just pops up and kind of like helps him out a little bit. It's like, hey, thanks Omni-Man. And we see that he's more kind of aloof from the organization as a whole. Kind of, it's really interesting. It's more like he's got certain kind of characteristics to Batman of his kind of aloofness to working with the Justice League, whereas you normally see Superman being like, yeah, hey, let's do this kind of shit. it's definitely sets you up to be like, what the kind of fuck is going on? Well, we see that uh, he is from this planet Viltrum, and that we get his kind of story in the beginning that, oh yeah, Viltrum's got really cool ass shit, and he was sent there to kind of like do good stuff for Earth and all that. It's like, all right, you're kind of classic Superman kind of thing, where except to the effect of we don't know what his kind of weaknesses are, and as we learn throughout the show, this is a very kind of scary kind of scenario that we've got with this dude. But he's trying to wonder if Mark has any superpowers. Well, we see he's that Mark is really set up to be more similar to like Peter Parker. Now, granted, he's not super smart. He's not like doing any gadgets, but he's into comic books. He's doing his job and everything. Doesn't have his powers and trying to see what's going on. And I gotta hand it to the voice actors of Stephen Yeun and J.K. Simmons doing Mark and Omni-Man respectively. They just work very well. It's you do get that kind of weird thing of like it's Glenn from The Walking Dead and J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man. But they do their roles very well to the part where you're just like, yeah, these guys are these characters. And we see that Mark is doing his stuff at his job and accidentally hurls garbage in outer space. Like, yeah, I got my powers. And Nolan, his father's like, all right, let's kind of see how this kind of works. And then tries to kind of like train him to kind of see how he's up to it, and takes it a little bit too far. And Mark's just like, whoa, you fucking really punched me and shit. It's like, and kind of freaking him out. He does explain to his father later on that he's like, you've never hit me before, and doing it like that was really kind of freaky. It's like, yeah, and you definitely get more of a sense of like, you do get characters explaining what's going on and explaining their feelings, which is a nice thing to happen, and it doesn't feel like over the head or overly dramatic, like, Father, you hit me, and that made me sad. It's more in depth than that, unless they know how to do their tones and stuff. Granted, there are certain instances where we see other things going on and it's completely over the top and you're like, okay, that's kind of fucking funny. So he then tries to like go off and do his own kind of superhero thing, encountering this dude who could pretty much make himself into a rock kind of dude. Think like the Thing from Marvel, except they have actual control over it. He stops their kind of bank robbery, even though he's still trying to work it out. The thing is, this dude is now a new superhero, and this show very much leans into that. If you're going into this thinking that Mark does not constantly get his ass kicked, you're going to be kind of disappointed. That's not to say that it's like, oh, he has to get his ass kicked because he's the resident punching boy. No, he's learning how to deal with these things and learning how to take on these challenges, and he's dealing with how failure works out, and sometimes getting pretty much beaten within an inch of his life. That we know of. So then we get kind of introduced to other kind of things going on. We see that there's a teen team led by this robot dude, who you learn later on is not exactly a robot, introducing us to pretty much his normal kind of school person, Eve, who is Adam Eve, who has like control over like energy powers, which is actually pretty cool. So they get this like alien interdimensional kind of place that's pretty much trying to invade and conquer Earth, and it's kind of funny because Mark accidentally tosses this thing trying to like protect this old lady, and he takes her to the hospital, but she dies, and him dealing with that failure is an important thing because he learns how to deal and kind of handle these crazy ass fucking situations to see if he even wants to be a hero. And then this dude just keeps fucking coming back. And I'm like, this asshole again? It's funny because it's a perfect example of a story showcasing a character being annoying without it being like bad writing, like, oh god, this motherfucker again because the plot demands it. No, this dude got hit by Mark. He's like, I don't fucking like that dude. Comes back with like tanks and shit like that because there's a time dilation effect, and if they're there for too long, they start to age out and die. And he keeps coming back with like better armaments and shit like that. It's like, holy fucking shit. And not only is he an asshole, we also get like the rest of like the team. We got like the robot dude who's the leader. We've got of course Adam Eve, Duplicate, and this Rexplode dude who's oh my god, he is such an asshole. And the thing is, it's not because of like them like making him annoying and the plot making him annoying. He is legitimately an annoying ass stupid fucking character that oh yeah, so we see that kind of stuff going on, but there's also this thing in the background going on in that the Guardians at the end of the first episode are all murdered by Omni-Man. For some reason we're like, why the fuck? And that is brutal. I gotta hand it to him because there are certain ways that you can like showcase violence. In this, they really go into it and show like the gruesomeness, but it's never played for laughs. Now granted, you can do one or the other, so the tone is consistent here in that we see Omni-Man just completely decimate and destroy the Guardians of the Globe for some whatever reason. Popping Red Rush's head, like ripping shit out and like taking, it's nasty, like chopping Immortal's head off, and it's disturbing, and it's not presented as like, this is funny, this is okay. It's like, this is a horrible kind of thing. And it kind of keeps going from there. So we see that Teen Team kind of has to step up to take on this Flaxen invasion, as we don't have the rest. And of course, Omni-Man was kind of indisposed, but then comes in at the end and is like pissed off at this dude, and then flies back into their dimension and completely and utterly destroys him. He's like, yeah, Earth's fine to conquer, bitch. Just like, what the fuck? And he annihilates him. Does somehow get back, and is like, yeah, okay. Because we see Mark come in and is like, yeah, Dad went into another dimension. She's like, oh, okay, that's fine. He'll just be late for dinner. It's like, Jesus. But we also see that Mark is now using his new suit because Omni-Man, to apologize for punching him, took him to get his suit. And that was a kind of nice little father-son kind of thing, as then we get him having his name Invincible. So we see them kind of dealing with everything. Mark kind of being introduced into Teen Team. Robot being like, hey, can we call on you? And kind of being in a similar kind of position that Omni-Man's in. Not really part of the team, but if shit starts getting kind of weird and crazy, they kind of call him in. As we see them dealing with like a Dr. Earthquake dude that's fucking nuts. Like, they say he's got gloves, but Invincible's like, those are actually more like bracelets. And of course they're thinking he's scrambling his brain. He's rattling off this insane fucking shit, being like he wants to destroy Mount Rushmore because of slavery and everything, and then comes up with the whole line of like, yes, he might be the great emancipator, but I'm going to emancipate you from your lies, ha ha. It's like, holy shit, it's really funny, over the top villain shit. And like, look what they've got you wearing, Adam Eve. And she's like, I designed this myself. And I'm like, yeah, her suit's pretty cool. Like, what are you fucking going on about, you weird ass dick cheese? But he gets kind of fucked over and like goes down into a thing of lava. Mark did try and save him. It's like, all right. But seeing him kind of bond with Adam Eve and trying to figure out what's going on, while also trying to date this chick Amber, which was done in an interesting way because this Todd dude was kind of giving her shit. Mark's like, hey, stop that. And then he gets beaten up by him. But then he gets his powers, and the dude tries to like beat him. It's like, yeah, hit me again, dick cheese. And it's like, okay, this is weird. And we see him trying to balance his life. The thing is, Amber is definitely smarter than Mark kind of gives her credit for in trying to figure out everything that's going on. Because she eventually is like, yeah, I knew you were fucking invincible. It wasn't that fucking hard to kind of figure out. You just didn't tell me about it. Because Adam Eve was like, hey, you always got to kind of watch out for doing this kind of stuff when you're in a relationship, because you either tell them or you don't, and all the kind of like problems that happen with that. She even calls him out like, I didn't tell you to lead her on. And it's like, it's Mark fucked up. And Mark's like, okay, yeah, I didn't really get this. Because we also get into effect that Rex got jealous that they are at the same school, thinking that they were cheating, and then cheated on Adam and Eve because they were a couple with Duplicate. And I'm like, you sleazy, skeezy, stupid fuckboy. And then Adam Eve's like, I'm kind of done with this. So we see that this government dude, Cecil, pretty much tasked Robot with creating a new Guardians of the Globe. We see that Black Samson, who was an original Guardian but lost his powers and essentially kind of went the Iron Man route to like armor himself up, gets on. We got the Shrinking Girl, Duplicate, Rexplode, Monster Girl. Like, we see a kind of tryout thing, and Rex pretty much just stepped on his own dick, and fights Monster Girl, and she's pretty much beating his ass. But Invincible's like, "Hey, chill the fuck out, man." And she's like, "Yeah, sorry. When I transform into that, I kind of get a little nuts." And it's really kind of weird because it's more of a curse thing, and every time she does it, she gets like a week younger, and she's actually 24, and she looks kind of like 12. There's a lot of shit going on. So they're trying to deal with all the various kind of shit going on. Let's see. There's a lot of shit that happens, and I wish that it had been better paced and better kind of differentiated, because it all kind of like blurs together. We get this Detective Darkblood looking into, he's kind of like this demon detective dude trying to see what's going on, knows that something's off because Omni-Man was the only survivor, and he wanted his suit because it had all the blood and everything on it. And he's pretty much knows that Omni-Man is involved at some point. Omni-Man's like, fuck off, man. Get back from me. But, of course, he also talks to Debbie, his wife, and she starts kind of like looking into stuff as well, because one of the previous Guardians of the Globe, wife Olga, who was with Red Rush, wants to sell her house and everything, and kind of was like, this is kind of weird, man. Let's see. Guardians of the Globe. We get the robot dude breaking out the Mauler twins to do some kind of weird thing. We find out it's to pretty much make him a new body based on Rex, because evidently he sees that like Monster Girl likes Rex and makes him like a teenager with kind of, it's really kind of weird. I don't know if he's got Rex's powers or not, but he hasn't been a robot. He's like a dude in a little thing being like, yeah, I kind of wanted this. Tried to capture the Mauler twins, but that's when shit kind of starts getting kind of crazy and nuts. We see that Mark goes to Mars to like accompany this whole kind of situation going on, because like it's first man mission to Mars, and it's like, yeah, okay, it'll take about 2 weeks. They encounter like the Martians there, but there's this like squid thing going on that's like, yeah, they could like get these people and like fuck shit up. We also, he gets back, but one of the astronauts got taken over. It's like, all right, we're gonna have to deal with that later, even at the end of the season. Let's see. We got that. There's a lot of shit that goes on. We get this Alan the alien from the like coalition of planets popping up. Voiced by Seth Rogen also, by the way, which was kind of interesting. They kind of start fighting because like Omni-Man was supposed to fight. It was like, yeah, we fought like 3 years ago. It's like, what are you talking about? Earth? It's like Earth. No, it's Earth. It's like, oh, okay, wrong planet. I'm sorry about that. But he comes back in later on to kind of like give us the lowdown of what's going on. So, let's see. Cecil pretty much deals with Darkblood to make sure that he doesn't tip off Nolan too much. He, like, exercises him back to hell. He's like, if we set this dude off too early, it's going to get nuts. We also see that Mark is trying to figure out what's going on with his life, because he does almost get close to getting broken up with Amber once, and then him and his friend William go off to see this college because William's, like, almost boyfriend Rick's there. But he gets, like, captured by this dude and turned into this, like, animatronic kind of crazy cyborg thing. But Invincible didn't do what he needed to do, and Rick got turned into that. And, of course, rightfully so, William's like, you should have fucking handled this, because Amber was pissed off that Mark disappeared during everything, because that's when William figures out that he's invincible. While one of this dude's crazy experiments kind of got loose. And then Cecil, of course, brings that in and starts using dead soldiers and like to make into these like animatronic robot motherfuckers to like fight Omni-Man. And I'm like, you asshole, you're doing horrible shit. And Omni-Man fought like this kaiju, and he like utilizes that. Starts trying to do all this shit to like take him out. We find out that isn't gonna work, because we get towards the end, and the Mauler twins were trying to pretty much use the schematics they got from Robot, who's now going by Rudy, because he goes to the Team Guardians of the Globe kind of thing to kind of like work that shit out. And then they try and like deal with the Immortal and like get him up, and he's working already. Now, a little bit before that, we see that Invincible pretty much works with the kind of Titan dude to take on this machine head dude. And it kind of works out, at least at first, because you think, oh, okay, this dude's got a sad story. He's either going to be bad or he's going to be good. And it's kind of a little bit of both. They take out the machine head dude, but he brings in this like group of like superpower motherfuckers that pretty much beat Mark to almost death again. But the Guardians of the Globe come in and they kind of get into a draw. Monster Girl gets severely fucked up. Black Samson gets fucked up, but also gets his powers back without too much damage on him. But there was just a nasty ass fight. It's like, sweet Jesus, the escalation. That's important because it shows that like how much that robot / Rudy cares for Monster Girl and definitely brings her back and helps fix her from all of the wounds that she's got. Yes, that's important because it details like the Guardians of the Globe and kind of Nolan's whole kind of view on the human race, and Cecil kind of dealing with everything as well. Because Titan then takes over and shows that that's another kind of villain thing that Mark is going to have to deal with. He's like, yeah, we got this now. It's like, you could have been set up as a hero with all the stuff that you got, but okay, cool. We'll have to see how that kind of works out. But we get to a point where Cecil, Debbie pretty much brings out that she knows about Nolan, and he's pissed off and everything, and it's setting him up to pretty much go apeshit. Cecil then, of course, brings in Debbie because he's afraid of what's going to be going on, and all hell pretty much breaks loose. Nolan pretty much starts to try to take out some of the stuff that Cecil's got. They kind of nuke him. Doesn't do anything. He's trying to find Mark to kind of tell him more about what's going on, and they unleash pretty much the kaiju on his ass. And Mark kind of rocks up because he had been talking with Adam Eve, to figure out what to do because she had her own little journey where she's like, you know what? I just kind of want to help people. Leaves home, which her father is just like a dickweed. I mean, he has her best interest at heart, but he's a dickweed about it. So she's like, peace. So she goes and tries to help people out. Mark is trying to like talk to her, and because he needs help, he's like, what do I do? I messed up everything with Amber, with William. I don't know if I want to be a superhero because they see everything going on with Omni-Man, even though they don't know that's Omni-Man at this point. She wants to go help people, and he, of course, has the power to help people, but he doesn't know if he should do it because he feels like he's been fucking up constantly, which is not an inaccurate assessment. He has helped people, but things have been going nutty. Well, he's trying to help out, and of course that's when kind of like the Immortal kind of pops up. They kind of deal with the kaiju, but then Omni-Man kills the Immortal, and it's like, again. Now granted, he's not completely dead, because we see that Cecil's got his ass later on, and then this becomes the final kind of confrontation that we see, and it is fucking brutal. As we learn from Omni-Man that Viltrum is not this kind of peaceful place. It was only peaceful because they essentially go on kind of like a Darwinistic kind of thing of like only the strongest survive, as they beat the shit out and then pretty much use their officers to spread the Viltrum Empire throughout the cosmos, and that his assignment was Earth, and that he wants Mark to join him on it, and Mark doesn't want to do that. You've murdered all these people, and he views them as animals, and it's nuts to see that. It's very now granted, you can of course make the Star Wars comparisons of like Luke and Darth Vader, but it's very apt because this is a very interesting and intense kind of fight, because it's physical, even though Mark really doesn't have the experience or the complete strength yet to completely take on his father, but it's also philosophical because he has been inspired by his father to be a hero and to help and save people, and he's all just had it as a facade, and that he says that he doesn't really care for these people, views them as animals, that he can just burn this planet down to the ground if he wanted to. And it's just nuts to see him flip like that, and it's nuts, man, because Bart tries his goddamn hardest to stop his dad and bring his dad back, and it doesn't work. Not fully, but towards the end it kind of gets through to him, because he, of course, was being taught about Earth customs. It's very interesting because you would put that like Omni-Man is kind of more like Superman, but it's more accurate to put Mark as the true Superman here, because Omni-Man wasn't really raised on Earth. He just came to Earth as like a Trojan soldier like a Trojan horse to take over the planet, whereas Mark learned and lived with the humans, very much more similar to, of course, Clark Kent and Superman. So it's interesting to see that kind of way work out, especially when he starts trying to teach Mark a lesson, because we see that Cecil tries to send planes, lasers, and shit like that, and none of it's working. Mark saves a dude, and he's like, "What? Why'd you save this dude?" And then kills him. He's like, "Oh, you're upset about that? Well, how about this?" And then pretty much like uses Mark as a blunt instrument to kill more people, like throwing him into Chicago, and we see Mark trying his hardest to save these people that he has been hurt because of the force that Omni-Man can like hurl him at, trying to save this mother and daughter from this collapsing building, and he can't. He's like, I'll kill as many as I have to teach you this lesson, and it's fucking brutal. It's not funny whatsoever. I mean, if you get laughter out of this, that's for you. And it's just this, I could just feel it with Mark because of like the empathy. It's just like Jesus Christ, because we see him trying to save these people, and then we see Omni-Man throw him into the subway system, and then take him up, have him out in front of him, just like destroying a subway car, and just having people exploding into bloody messes, and it's just Jesus fuck it. It got to me, man. It was like fucking brutal. That was nuts, man. That's hard. So definitely not for kids. Please, good God. I mean, if you got a good handle on what your kid can and can't handle, that's for you. But I would not recommend this for like anyone under teens without vastly understanding what they would know and what they would understand. It's like showing a 10-year-old Hostel or Saw or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre without kind of like getting them prepped for like the nastiness that can ensue. It's just nuts, because he then just keeps going on and like beating him into a mountainside like Everest, and just pissed off at why he can't see what's going on, that he'll live for like thousands of years because of his Viltrumite DNA, and that he's stronger than all these people, and he'll outlive all of them. And he's like, "But I'll have you, Dad." And it's like, shit, as he's like beaten to shit, can barely see, blood everywhere. And it kind of starts getting to Nolan as he then remembers seeing Mark play a baseball game, and the joy he had there, and how he got excited as he hit a home run. And he then just like, fuck, whatever, and then flies off as we see him kind of tearing up and crying as he then like blasts out of the solar system. And we see that Mark's pretty much trying to recuperate. He kind of makes up with Amber, and we see that him and his friends group pretty much gets on the same page of all that going on. And Cecil wants to know if he's up to do this, and he's like, "I don't know, I have to think about it," pretty much, and how he's trying to come up with his own game plan and everything. And he's like, "All right, cool, just keep me appraised." Then we see that Cecil does call him that something is flying in, and we see that it's Alan the Alien from the Coalition of Planets. Like, yeah, I didn't know that this was flagged by the Viltrumite Empire. I should have warned you and stuff. He's like, "Well, things got nuts, and this Coalition of Planets has formed to fight against the Viltrumite Empire and figure out what's going on with that." And it was a kind of cool, kind of come down kind of conversation to kind of see what's going on, as we then see teases of like Titan doing his criminal empire, the seismic dude pretty much going mole man, finding people down there, the squiddy things doing their kind of shit, the Mauler twins being back in prison, just everybody seeing everything pretty much set up for the next season and whatnot. And I don't mind that because of how short this is, just to like show it, and it doesn't feel like a cliffhanger. The main crux of the story of Omni-Man killing the Guardians of the Globe, Mark finding out, and the fallout from that are a nice conclusion here. And it's like, wow, okay, I really like this world. I really like these characters. It's definitely, you could definitely say that it's got similarities to The Boys, but it does its own thing. It's not like all superheroes are corrupt. It's like there are people trying to save and help people, and then there's people that, like Omni-Man and the Viltrumites, that are like, I have the power to do whatever I fucking want. And that gives them the mandate to do this kind of shit. It's definitely a different kind of conversation than The Boys. You could definitely go that kind of like, oh, you view them both side by side and get that same kind of thing. It's like, not really. Once you see it, you're like, alright, I kind of understand the differences here, even though it's still set up in the superhero trapping. So, I would definitely recommend the show. Most of my criticisms of like the pacing, because of its shortness, I don't like it, but it doesn't truly hamper the enjoyment. It's more of a, oh, okay, this would have been cool to be longer, so that way we get more of this and more of these characters and more depth. Not that it's like really horrendous or bad. Just some of the weird kind of animation things going on, which overall I would say is pretty good. You always get that weird kind of shit when you got some 2D and 3D moments. I have seen ones that have blended it better, but I understand that shit like that definitely takes some getting used to. So, overall, I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to see what they do with the next couple seasons, what they're going to be going for the story. I'm definitely going to look into the compendiums and everything at some point. So, I'm like, oh, okay, I'd heard about this, and it was kind of cool to see it adapted like this. And I'm like, yeah. Animation really helped here because they definitely were able to sell the powers and everything and the gruesomeness that occurs within this. Definitely. So, I overall would definitely recommend this to those people that, to people that can handle it and people that will enjoy seeing a different kind of take on superheroes and what this kind of works out towards. It's not completely, what if Superman were evil? But it's definitely got a majority of the premise of that. So those are my opinions on the season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.